Yeah. Oh, from the other side. Oh, there goes that.
I don't know. It looks better in my head. Welcome in. This is Bridging Civil Tension with host Phil Wallace, myself, Kent Jones. Phil, author, entrepreneur, all around good guy. He does it all. Also plays the role of the African American on this show. Phil, how are you?
I am fantastic. I dodged that Illinois cold.
Hey, it's like ice capades up here this morning. Our good friend Stephanie Conley from Steph's Books got rear-ended today on our way in. The roads are so icy. She's fine. Everybody's fine. Car damaged, but she's okay. A little headache. Hopefully we'll see her later this afternoon. But yep, it's crazy out there right now in Northern Illinois. Me, I'm Kent. I'm a founder, CFO here, president of DDOE Enterprises, which owns the 216 The Net Studios. Big news is, if you're not aware, we're on Twitter. Go to studios or at studios_216. You can go out to Apple Music now. Just punch in 216 The Net. You can listen to us all the time. If you have questions, topics that you want us to cover on any show, specifically here, Bridging Civil Tension, send that to an email to info@216thenet.com and just put Bridging Civil Tension topic. I want you guys to do that. The bridge going to look a lot different this year than it has in the last 2.5-3 years, because we've got some really cool things in store here, and we're looking to mend a lot of things, I think, right? And that's what we want to talk about a little bit today.
So you forgot legend. You forgot legend when describing yourself. The legend Kent Jones.
Yeah, the guy with face for radio. And you know, I'm surprised people haven't like memed or sent out like reaction videos to my dancing. You know,
well, you're better than most. They probably can't say too much. There's been a few times where I've watched my friends in the burbs dance, and I'm concerned. Is someone pinching you? Are there bugs that you're slapping? What's going on here? Who's hitting you that we can't see?
What's happening? Sal, good morning, man. Happy New Year. We want to talk about the new year. It's for those people who don't know, Sunday became a new year, right? Yeah, and we're now in 2023. Phil, when you were a kid, did you ever think you would see the year 2023?
No, we were afraid of 2K. Remember that?
Right. Remember that?
I thought the world was going to end in 2000. We were sitting there loaded up on food and stuff like that, holding our breath.
Yeah,
it was fun to party like it's 1999 until it's almost 2000.
Until
then you're concerned.
Yeah. So you're very well read. You've done speaking engagements and things like that. And I scratch my head, I guess, at why there's so much hope around the new year. And I'm using air quotes for those people. Why? Let's talk about that.
I think it's the universal time to draw a line in the sand, right? And at the same time, you don't want to be left out. Everyone's kind of following what everyone else is doing. Is there echo?
Yeah, a little echo, but it sounds like you're in a jar or something. But that's okay. You're in Texas. We get it.
Man, it's echoing.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got the echo canceling on here, so it may be you.
Okay.
I don't know.
I could try to switch. Anyway, I feel that because everyone else is doing New Year, New Me, and resolutions and all that, then you don't want to be left out. So let me do it too. And so maybe the energy that goes within, okay, the group is doing it, I should be doing it too. All right. Kent says he's going to do a weight loss goal. Great. I'll do a weight loss goal with Kent because Kent's my buddy and I'll do it too. But that could be anytime you feel like it. That could be, hey, this is my last weekend doing X, Y, and Z. On Monday, we're going. You've done it. You've done it a few times with different things that you've done for weight loss or not drinking. You did the year of no alcohol.
Yeah, I got through that. I had a glass of champagne on the other side of New Year, so at 12:05, had a glass of champagne to celebrate my accomplishment. At which time I go, didn't miss that. Oh,
Welcome back, life.
And that's why I say people buy into to that so much, Phil. To me, your birthday should be. I mean, that's the true New Year,
right?
And people want to take a look at, put that whatever all the bad stuff that's happened, and let's move on. But people make these moves. Hey, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get healthy. Nobody ever says, you know what? I want to look at the world totally different in 2023 than I ever have. I want to unlearn the things that I perceive as not good learned behaviors in me and get rid of them. The only ones they do are like, well, I'm going to quit smoking or I'm going to quit drinking. Or, you know what I mean?
Right.
The outward ones. But nobody goes, hey, I want to change the way that I look at people. Why?
Why not? Why not say I'm going to have an open mind this year? Why not think that I'm going to go into these conversations not always have to be right?
Yeah.
Go into a situation where you hear something about a person. Maybe I don't have all the information before I judge them. Let's have a conversation first. I'll do that.
And people just the people that I know, a lot of people that I know don't. They don't say that, right? It's I want to make money. I want to start my own business. Their New Year's resolutions are things that people can look as they drive by the house or they drive by. Oh man, you lose weight, you look good, right? Not oh man, you think differently now. What happened? Let's talk about that.
I'm switching out real quick.
All right, and then he'll be back. So when it comes to the boy, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, when it comes to those things, does anybody ever out there does anybody ever out there just say, I want to make the world better by this? And the answer is no, right?
And why is that the case? Why not the mindset thing? Because I feel like you've read a number of books too, right? So you're well read as well. That it's the inward work, which is funny to say that on this show. It's the inward work that makes the outside habit, right? That makes the behavior that's going to cause the weight loss. How you look at yourself on the inside is going to determine how you work on yourself and do the work that you do on the outside. But you don't really hear too much as far as this is the work I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to unhook these toxic views that I have about life or perspective or relationships for myself or things or minorities or whoever the case may be, relationships. I'm going to unhook those and I'm going to unlearn those things.
Right. But an old guy like me, well set into a lot of ways, should be saying, I want to spend time with middle school students to impress upon them the way that I think is wrong. Right. So I don't think, and we've talked about it a lot over the years on this show. I don't think that we can change. I don't think we have the ability to change the 60-year-olds, the late 50-year-olds, the 70-year-olds, the 80-year-olds, and maybe a lot of energy is wasted on trying to get the old people who have been trained and stuck in their way to do something else. However, in that area, I should be having conversations now with high school kids, middle school kids to say, listen, now is the time to change the way you think. Now is the time to change this, that, or the third, and so that this world is a better place.
I definitely, for both of them, I think they'll be going to I think on the other side is there pressure, because typically what I found out would be like, well, Nana, this, and when she said things, we all kind of off as Nana. No one's really putting pressure on Nana of, hey, listen, you have a mixed grandchild, and that's not okay. And as a family, we're not going to allow that. So if you want to have access to your family or your grandchild, all that racism that you have bottled up and you keep letting out, you're gonna have to throw it away.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like how we talked about me, you, and Scott were talking about how, well, I don't want to make it uncomfortable in the situations on the golf course. Make it very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be known, Tom, not okay. What you will never do again is say these types of jokes in my presence if you want to continue our friendship.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you as a person and I don't hate you, but I'm letting you know from this day forward in 2023, new me, I'm not allowing those types of conversations in my presence. Are we clear? People aren't doing that. And I think the 60-year-old or 70-year-old or 80-year-old will change very quickly. No one's just applying pressure.
Yeah, and that's where it has to change. Now here's the thing. Will we ever live in a society, will we ever live in a world where racism doesn't exist? The answer to that will be no. Right? Because that's why there's wars, that's why there's, and we're speaking about America, and our narrow sight, but as we've seen and found out over the last couple of years, it doesn't just exist here. I mean, you want to feel racism if you're white, go over to the Middle East. When you're the overwhelming minority, you're going to feel it, right? Ashley was in Greece, and she went to Greece with her fiance and their friends, which here in America we would say were very diverse. Okay. And they went over to Greece, and Greece had them pegged as Americans. And as Americans, they were treated very differently until the person who is from Greece stepped up and said, da 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 da.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, whoa, well, here you go. So they had a taste of, and I've never been out of America, so I don't know, but they had that taste of, whoa,
this is what,
yeah. And it opened all of their eyes, and they were like, well, that's pretty bizarre. I never felt that. So it was, and again, what we would call culturally diverse in Greek was, it didn't matter. You were American.
right. But I feel like, and we've talked about this in the past, how like they wouldn't allow, slaves to read or whatever, or like the first thing they did in history when a new country won a war is they would burn the books, right? So what you're not allowed to talk about is forgotten. So as being able to openly make racist jokes and openly make racist statements and openly say derogatory things towards women or minorities or different groups or whatever, the more that you aren't able to speak about those things, the less it is prevalent in the world, the more that it does get forgotten. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you as far as that we're not going to eradicate racism in its entirety, but if we can minimize it substantially, I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about high on the hog and why does the education have to come this way? I tell you what, man, if you go out and watch Will Smith's movie, was Emancipation? Was that what? Mm-hmm. Amazing movie. And when you look at that movie, how historically accurate it is, a lot of people watching that go, I didn't know the fear tactic to keep people working was decapitating African Americans and sticking them on top of sticks on the outside of these quote unquote camps.
Right.
To say that could be you.
Decapitating.
Right. And we didn't learn those. We just didn't learn those things that way. Right.
But what did we learn? Like there was a skirmish in the South for a number of years, and then after that they became friends. There's a little march in Selma, and then now it's kind of brushed over. It's not the vivid picture that like, hey, but look, if I was taught, man, and we castrated and decapitated our people, we would tar fire them in the town square. Little kids could get out of school to watch it. Now, when you try to tell me that someone else is a terrorist or this awful person,
Yeah.
because they're doing what we did.
Yeah. And yeah, and we've been sold the bill of goods that uh you know, the Emancipation Proclamation and the world was good, everybody lived happily ever after.
Right, fingers were snapped, and then all of a sudden it went away. They don't talk about that. They would say, okay, you would say, Phil, okay, you're free, emancipation.
Yep.
You can leave the plantation. Well, on my way walking from the plantation, because I have no goods, I have nothing of my own, then I'll just use them.
Runner.
Well, Scott was allowed to arrest me for being a vagabond,
Yeah,
for being homeless, for being whatever. And then I'm in the prison system, and now that state gets free labor. So now I'm back doing slave work, regardless, as a free man.
Oh, you're free to go. Good luck, though. Good luck. And a lot of and what I love about that, and the the accuracy of things is it's helping people realize that, oh, so everybody's phone didn't go and a bulletin came out, all slaves are free,
Right.
and it's like, all right, wait, I heard you say that we are free. Why are you still keeping me here? And good luck, right? I mean, literally, good luck. And and I think that, and then that's part of the new year. That's part of what we have to do as a society, is we have to do as a world, is to say, you know what, that's a person, that's a human being,
Right.
and I have to be able to take a deep breath and go, let me seek first to understand rather than to be understood. And if I could wish anything on anybody this year in 2023, is to do that first. Seek first to understand rather than to be understood. And
Right.
you would see a lot of different conversations happening. I think you'd see a lot of different conversations on social media happening. And I think you would see a lot less use of social media happening if I sought first to be understood.
I was reading a book, I think it was Wayne Dyer, and he was talking about, we are all the terrorists, depending on who's telling the story, right? The Soviets may think the U.S. are the bad guys. The U.S. thinks that the bad guys are all, the bad, the Red Scare and all that, right? And it just depends on whose side of the story. But like you're saying, you take time to have that conversation, understand, man, Kent probably doesn't even hate me. Kent's probably just fed the same stuff about me that I'm fed about him.
Yeah.
He's told that America's bad. I'm told that Russia are all spies.
Yeah.
Why not have a conversation to figure out where there's middle ground?
That's right. Ted, good morning. Glad to have you with us. I'm glad to have Ted on the show at some point, too. Of course, he's right in the thick of things.
A lot of good stuff for Ted, man.
Yep. And he has to, he has to think differently and gets, I mean, here's a guy wheelchair bound. Is his beautiful bride is African American, he's not. I mean, you want to spin a wheel, this guy gets looked at sideways three ways to Sunday,
Right.
And we'll have to get him on. I know he's just out of the hospital, so we're glad you're doing well, Ted. But we'll get you in here this year because we want to start spotlighting and highlighting people who have risen above the challenge and continue to win in life this year, rather than get drugged back through a lot of the things. And I think that's one way you can change the narrative. That's one way you can help people overcome. We're again talking with Dr. Freeman. We're hopeful that we can get him on the show again, authoring and working with Black History BH 365 and or 360, I think. uh, and it's just a different look at Black history. But I think the more that the mainstream Hollywood and whatnot can help shed light on the realities of things, it like Will Smith did. You may people, oh, he slapped somebody. Yep, he's a human being. Good. Maybe he was fed up and he hit a straw. I forgave him 10 seconds after it happened. And you know what? If you need to what I mean, you need to watch that movie. I mean, it's good, right? We did back in the day, back in the 80s, we did Roots, which was very watered down, make you feel good kind of a thing. This shows the brutal reality of things, and we could probably find modern day, what I would call modern era instances of this, and shed light on it that way. And that's how I think we move the dial from hate to not hate.
I muted out there as an air blower that kept walking back and forth. So I kept looking like, really, dude? Right now you're doing this? Got millions of viewers. You can do this right now. And that's where I wonder, why do we praise raw and authentic on certain topics but not on others?
Right.
Why are we willing to show, hey, this is why this group needs to be, guarded against and profiled and stuff like this, because this is how dangerous they are, but we won't say, hey, this is how bad we were. Because again, if we say this is how bad we were, then maybe we can have some grace over here and say, hey guys, either if we don't like what they're doing, hey, we did that.
Well, for hundreds of years, right? It was the marketing, right? I mean, we had to buy into the marketing of America, right? I mean, that's
pitch the dream.
Hey, land of the free, home of the brave, world's best, blah 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 blah. Unless, right? All men are created equal, unless.
But even, and we were talking about this with Drew, right? It wasn't even like, when the Italians got here, when the Polish got here, so it wasn't just, so at some point, like, why didn't we, as hey, listen, it's not just us, it's bad for you too.
Yeah.
What can we do?
That is, yeah. And that's what we, and again, that's why I'm excited about 2023. When you take a look at things now, we may not get the hate mail and things that you and I had, and the texts and the messenger messages that we've gotten over the last few years, because we are instead going to highlight and say, here's somebody who's overcome, here's somebody who's gotten through, and believe it or not, you are supporting this person. So all the hate in your world, you didn't know.
Right.
You didn't know. How does that make you feel now? And the reason that we can highlight certain things is because of the marketing that's been going on. Well, we can't, Phil, if we do shed light on this, then that ruins our 1776 marketing ploy. We are the best, right?
So, okay, so I have a question, because you touched on this, and I apologize. It's just now catching up to me to address it. When we talked about how, like, Nana can't unlearn what she's learned, and maybe we were wasting time on the 60s and above, right? So then the contrary would be to teach the ones who need to be educated, the ones getting into that first, second, third grade, those children books, which Dr. Freeman just sent me a screenshot of children's books they're working on. If we've decided that we can't help them unlearn, but things like CRT came out, and now we've committed to not being willing to teach. Why are we so afraid of pushing through?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can. That's a debate for a whole different day, I guess. But CRT's been around since the '90s. It's just now all of a sudden we wanted to raise that flag because some idiots, but and now they consider it a bad thing when truly it's not a bad thing if you look at it in its entirety. Ted says, Phil, your answer is because people are afraid of seeing the truth of our world. Everyone wants to think this doesn't affect my world. Yeah. So again, what's the marketing ploy? Um, there are things, right? I can honestly say, and I excelled in mathematics. I excelled in algebra. I was in honors classes. I had that type of mind.
Right.
I've been in the finance industry for over 25 years, and I have never used algebra. So we can sit here and say CRT this, CRT that. You're teaching our kids a bunch of rubbish. You taught me algebra. Okay. And not just a little. I had to show all my work.
Show the whole work. If
And I
then
said, why do I need to know this? Because you do. Oh, oh, okay. Everybody takes algebra. My goal in life is to be a stay-at-home parent. Why do I need algebra? Oh, well, you do. Well, it's rubbish. When was the last time you needed to find X, Phil?
I was talking about this the other day. I haven't found a parabola since high school. I haven't used.
I mean, yeah, I'll say, hey, geometry is cool if you shoot pool at a bar. You kind of use those angles in geometry, right? But and if you're of that critical mind thinking, okay, is you and I love basketball, and there's somebody who goes, well, if you shoot the ball at this arc with this force, you know what I mean? There's somebody who can figure that out. But 98% of the people, let's just put the ball in the hoop.
Right. I never thought about the angle. And if this is that angle, then the reflection will be at a 45 degree. Put the ball in the hole.
Right? No. So with that said, there are so many things in school that you get taught that's rubbish. But when we bring it up because it has the word race in it, or maybe the word critical, we go, oh, you're going to say that word. Oh. No, you have no idea. Fight hard against not having algebra, for crying out loud. Look how many kids will be happy.
We've talked about this a few times, but I'm just still baffled at it. Like, okay, one of the highest that were voting against CRT was Tennessee. The same state that 30% of it voted for slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 30%. Yeah.
You don't think that in a state where 30% of the population, and you got to understand, there's probably minorities that go into that whole percentage pool. So if you take them out, that 30 is probably a lot higher. Because there's the whole city of Memphis, which has a lot of hood spots, or Nashville has some hood spots. So you got to take those cities out, and that state is a lot higher than even 30% of those who think that race or slavery should still be going on right now. You don't think they should be taught CRT? Some sort of emotional awareness.
And here's what I'll say is recant that statement. Okay. Because if you don't think in 2023 that 3 out of 10 that think slavery is still there is bad. Okay. So I'm gonna stop you right there and recant that, because now you're saying, hey, there has to come a point where you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
But hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying. That 3 out of 10, I get to vote. So if you take me out of that, then it's probably 5.
Well, we would hope that it wouldn't be you.
No.
Right? Hey, I'm just saying we would.
I don't know about you guys. I'm looking forward to this.
Hey.
The harvest season is upon us. No, we're not thinking that way. So you have those, those states that mindset hasn't left. You don't think should have to learn?
I mean, here's what, and let's roll this into some people's the vernacular here. If you bat 30%, you've got a max contract. You're going to make millions of dollars playing baseball if you can bat what they would say 300, right? Hey, Gary, how are you, brother? Glad to have you. This is Happy New Year, Phil. Okay. So if you don't think that 3 out of 10 is bad, you're wrong because you're saying 3 out of 10 is good in the baseball vernacular, right?
That's
If,
all
if I could win as a pitcher, if I can win 3 out of every 10 games in baseball, you again are making a major contract. Okay. Uh, listen, 3 out of 10 is not good when it comes to this topic. So we shouldn't even say, let's back these people out. No, you have to go, wait, what? It's 2023. And 3 out of every 10 people in Tennessee voted for slavery.
Yeah.
But literally.
But there's nothing else to learn about racism. We're beating a dead horse. People are playing victim. No. Because you got to understand, 3 out of every 10 work in a place of influence. 3 out of 10, some of those are teachers. Some of those are lawyers. Some of those are doctors. Some of those decide the lives of other individuals, impact the lives of other individuals. Some of those are loan officers. Some of those play very key roles in society. And we're going to pretend like that 3 in every 10 doesn't influence and overflow anywhere else. Like you said, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
You got to understand that 3 of every 10 works somewhere. And if they're teaching your child, if they're deciding your jail sentence, it's probably not for your benefit or to move you forward.
Yeah. It's crazy to me. And please, if you have something to say, please send it to info@216thenet.com. Info@216thenet.com, and I'll gladly discuss offline or whatever the case may be. If you have topics that you want the bridge to cover, send it to info@216thenet. Just put bridging civil tension in the subject line and tell us what you want to talk about. Tell us what's on your mind. That's what we are all about here at the 216 Studios. Is we just want to make sure that people are getting good content and getting what they want to hear. And bridging civil tension is we feel we'd rather build a bridge than tear it down. And the bridges and our mission this year on this show is to build as many bridges as we possibly can and create and bring awareness to the bridges that lead to good places, right? So
keeping with the theme of today, the new year, new me, right? Are there people who are going to be able to take a step back and say, you know what, if states in our country are still thinking that slavery is okay, we've tried it this way. We've tried algebra. We've tried teaching it. Maybe we should try to teach some sort of societal awareness or race awareness or whatever whatever you want to call it. If you don't want to say critical race theory, if you want the race word out of it, cool. Let's omit that if that's what's holding us back from progressing. But if we've tried not teaching some sort of awareness course, why not implement that? Why not emotional intelligence? Why not people skills? In something that shows you how to interact with people who think differently that you do in a mature way.
Oh.
We've tried the other way. It didn't work. It got us here. That 2023, 30% still think slavery should be a thing. Let's look at other options. Are we open-minded to that?
Yeah. And, I call Tennessee, southern Chicago. I mean, so many people in Illinois want to live in Tennessee. I do like Tennessee, but I'd rather live in a Kentucky or a West Virginia in the mountains or something like that. But a lot of the reason I don't want to move to Tennessee is because everybody from Illinois is moving to Tennessee. I don't want it, right? I think though that yes, people can, and my hope is that people do see that. So Colette, my daughter, yeah, yeah, Nashville is the melting pot. My daughter, I've got a 20-year-old daughter, plays basketball at the community college, and a lot of her friends are basketball players. And as I've said on previous shows, I'm blessed to have these young men, come in and be able to talk with them and pick their brain a little bit.
Right.
So on New Year, on New Year, they a couple stopped by, and I don't care. I either offer you a drink or food, and they're too young to drink, so I offered them food. Like, hey man, here's some lasagna. So now, hey, we got all this spread. It's New Year's Eve. Here you go. Here you go. And they're headed off to a party at about 10 o'clock, right? And of course, as we're not naive, these young people had some alcohol with them, right? I mean, they're college kids. College kids are going to do what college kids do. And it's about 10 o'clock, 10:30, and I look at them and I go, listen. I go, I'm going to tell all three of you, right? So, two African Americans and my daughter. And I go, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not comfortable with you. You haven't, I understand you've got alcohol, it's closed, whatever. You haven't opened it. And none of you have been drinking. I get that. You're going to do it when you get to this party. But I go, here's what I want to tell you guys. It's 10:30 on New Year's Eve in McHenry, Illinois. Okay. So if you get pulled over, who do you think's going to get in trouble? The cute little white girl or the two African American guys? Now, I'm not trying to be a dick here, fellas. I'm trying to watch out for your best interest. Okay. So here's what I need you to do. When you get to where you're going, I need you to call me and let me know that you got there safe. The other is I need you to not leave that place.
Right.
Because if I'm just telling you, you go through, you stop, and there's a cop there. He lets you go through, and he sees cute little white girl in the car with you. It doesn't matter what you did. More than likely tonight, y'all are, and I embarrassed Colette. She's like, man, I can't believe, Dad, you embarrassed me. I can't believe you would say that. I go, listen, I care about them guys. I go, ask them if they were embarrassed or if they thought I was speaking the truth. And they said, no, he was speaking the truth.
Right.
But there aren't a lot of people that would have said that to them guys.
Right. But I'd rather you embarrass me than out.
Right?
I'd rather talk to you on Saturday than to get bailed out on Monday.
Right.
Conversation.
Yeah. Gary says, oh, hold on. Are we talking about sunset towns here? No, those things don't exist here in America. I don't know what you're talking about.
Both of our cities were founded as anyway.
Anywho, and so there's not a lot of people, right? There are a lot of people like this who would have said, no, you drive yourself, you let them go.
Right.
And you're not going to go hang out with, you know what I'm saying? Moving right along. Yeah. So, and Colette and I talked, and I go, listen, Colette, you need to know this, and you need to know how to handle this when this happens. And you need to be loud when it does happen, because it is commonplace that when it does happen, how to handle it to make sure that your friends are not face down with guns pulled. I said, you have to know how, and if I wouldn't have been honest in who I am with these guys had I not said anything. Right? It's the truth. It's the ugly truth. And I appreciate the work. I appreciate the effort. I appreciate everything that the police do to keep us safe and maintain order. But I can't say that I can't say that the zebra's white, right? The zebra's striped. I have to be honest. right?
So what would be protocol situation? How would it let
Hold on, you were cutting out. Say it again.
I said what would be protocol for that? Like how would you tell Colette to handle that if they did get pulled over?
Yeah, well, the first thing is I told her, I said, first thing you tell them, hold on, relax. I'm here on, everything's fine. These are my friends, number one, and then get me on the phone as quickly as possible. And those guys have my contact information as well. I told them the same thing. I said, if anything goes sideways, get me on the phone right away. You know, and that way, because I know people here in town, I know police
Right.
officers like that,
And
right?
everything is being recorded, officer. And
Right,
that Colette. I
right.
can't for anything, so it has to come from Colette that she's got her phone and it's recorded. Because if I
Correct.
reach for something, it may turn to a bad
That's
action.
what, yep, that's what I said. Yep. So again in 2023, it's sad that we have to do that, but again, you know, especially New Year's Eve, police will just do random stops. Oh, you kind of coasted, they'll find a reason, to catch and make sure that quote unquote drunk drivers are not on the road. Oh, hey, and we know that, and it's not hidden, there is profiling that happens. There just is, right? And so you have to prepare them for that. They had a great night, everybody was fine, but the true reality of it is I don't think there's a lot of people who probably would have said that. Now if those guys thought, man, this racist some bitch talking like that, but they didn't, right? Because they know who I am, and they know I've got their best interest in mind, you know so
I, I think I think the other that conversation, you're not addressing them as the problem.
correct.
Now,
Well, they're
if you
not.
have a conceived notion that they are the problem, you're probably going to articulate that a lot differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and they caught that, right. And I even asked them, because the look Colette was giving me, I was like, guys, am I saying anything out of line here? And they're like, no, sir. you know, and they're good people. I mean, these are guys who are great athletes, who are getting A's and B's in college. They're going to be awesome pieces of the society. Yeah, and you're right, Gary. Gary says it's a bit sad that these conversations are still needed. It is, but again, I'm not going to send somebody out. I coach basketball. I'm not going to send them out into a game without any game plan or training or knowledge of what's happening, right? Hey, here's what you may find today, and tonight especially. These are 20-year-old kids who, number one, are bulletproof, right? Hey, I know it all, man. Watch me, I'm crazy, right? And you can't tell me. But I've been through a lot more of these. I've had friends who've been pulled over for no reason. And all of a sudden on tonight, ooh, there really was no reason. Throw that in the back seat. Now we got a reason,
Yeah,
right?
you're on camera. You're on camera.
We know that happens. So if I didn't, and you know what, I would have said it if it wasn't black guys either, right? I don't like that you're leaving here I don't like that you're driving tonight. That's why I stay at home, right? But
Right.
hey, here's what's going to happen. Just because you're teenagers or young, they're going to assume that you've been out partying and you're drunk. So they again, it's profiling, not racial, but it's profiling. Young kids, you're out late. Yeah, yeah, you're not doing something right, and they're going to pull you over for no reason, right? And then things can escalate from there. Yeah, Ted says, same thing I tell my kids all the time. And Gary says, as a parent with kids on this side of the pond, and he's in Singapore, this type of conversation never need to exist in our society. Well, yeah, and Singapore is, I think, rated in number 1 for least racist country in the world, I think, or something. It's just, I mean, everybody moves there because it's awesome. Um, on that little island. And it's weird, right? For all of our listeners, I mean, we've got 35 million some subscribers here, and we've got people all around the world. If I were to take a peek, yeah, if I look at some things right now, we've got people in Canada, we've got people in America, out in Singapore, Thailand, what is that, Brazil, so we've got people that it may not happen that are listening, and but we've got to still have this conversation because there's similarities in some aspects, or you may travel to a part of the world that we don't want you to get hit with this.
Right. We can tell. Listen, if you get an overseas contract and you're in Singapore, now that's one thing. However, you're currently in Woodstock.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Hands.
And so I give that advice because I want them to have fun, right? But I also give them advice because you haven't seen it, right? Or you may have heard about it, but you haven't experienced it. And guess what? When you're rolling out, on this particular day, I will say the same thing on Memorial Day. I'll say the same thing on the 4th of July. Anytime that there is right, St. Patty's, absolutely. I don't have to say it on President's Day, because it's not what it is. But you have to be willing to educate. That's what I'm talking about this year is, can we educate the young people, right? Because in the young people here in cities, right in our neck of the woods, they're still writing, with Sharpie the N-word on certain people's lockers.
Right.
In high schools today.
Following them to the bathroom, fighting, causing fools.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep it with the theme. So what different conversations do people need to have? Or just, this is more sort of a question for the listeners. What difficult conversations do you need to have that could change a life or save a life? Which difficult conversations are you avoiding because you're afraid of the conflict that needs to be happen in order for growth to happen? Right? We kind of talked about Nana being, it's no longer okay, Nana. Right? What conversations are we dodging and ducking that could help change a life, save a life, or improve growth in your network for the new year? If it's going to be new year, new me, you can't have old thinking around you. It's just not going to be conducive for your development. So how do we fix that? We're going to have to be able to have conversations like what Ken said. Hey, guys, this is the reality of where you live. Now, no fault of your own, but this is how they're going to handle the situation.
And I want you to keep in mind these athletes are from different areas of the state or different states. Right. So, hey, again, listen. You're going to want to jump in that boat to cross the Nile. Don't use the little floaty raft. Because don't use that one when you cross, because I know I'm not going to let you cross the Nile in an inflatable boat. Oh, and by the way, try not to drag any of your blood. That inflatable kayak, Phil. The python will actually eat that too. So
the inner tube is probably not the donut. It's probably the best. I know the floaties look nice. You're still eating. Don't do
that. So here's a lighthearted fact. Today, 6th of January, is the 50th anniversary of Schoolhouse Rocks. I didn't even know that.
Wow.
Well, I'm only a Bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. All right, never mind. Ted says, my favorite profiling was cops that knew I was disabled pulling me over when I could drive because they thought I was driving illegally. Because disabled people can't drive. They just assume that is messed up too. Hey, isn't that Ted? How's he driving?
Got it. Got here. This is the easy one. Ted, come on, buddy. You,
Uh,
I know there's no
um,
be.
so the question is what conversations need to be had. What do you tell your son?
Um, so we had the conversation when the riots and stuff like that were going. There was a march out here in Capel where he asked his mom, why did the police put brown people? And we talked about how a 5-year-old who, like, I don't know if you saw, like, if you're not I'll send you a picture, but like he's got such a light about him. But to see a kid kind of like dim his light to try to really figure out what is it about brown people that police don't like, and we have to have that conversation. And obviously, his mom's white, I'm not. That listen, we love all people, and what we can control is as long as we set a good standard and we show the good example,
Yeah.
we're not going to look at anyone else like we're better than them or worse than. We're not going to judge other people. We're going to lead with love. That's kind of our thing, is lead with love. We don't care who it is. We're going to be that person in the room. And so like he leads prayer for snack time and pulls out chair for his classmates. Like he's on it, but like we're really making it so, not that we don't see color, but all colors are beautiful.
Mhm.
Right. So that's more of the that we had.
Yeah, the conversation that I've got Lucy. She's an eighth grader, and 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 her soul is that way, right?
Right.
She doesn't necessarily hang out with the popular people. She doesn't necessarily hang out with. I mean, she hangs out with whoever she's having fun with at that time. I mean, that's her soul, um, and that's the conversations I have with her is understand in this, sit with them and listen and try to understand what they're saying before you respond. Because a lot of times what happens is we start responding before they stop speaking. And so seek first to understand. So listen to them and sit with them and understand where they're coming from and then make a decision. Is this somebody I should be investing time in and with?
Right.
Or is this somebody I should not be investing time in and with? Okay. And I speak about time and energy. Okay. She is pretty talented in basketball.
Okay.
And so she comes home, and how'd it go? She gets frustrated with some people. And I say, well, unfortunately, um, unfortunately, they may not have spent as much time honing their skill as you have, or they may not have been gifted with the same gifts that you have. However, what you need to do is you need to celebrate the fact that they're willing to spend time on that court in an area that you love to learn more about why it is that you love it.
Right.
And she says, she looks at me and I go, so yeah, some people are there just because they want that piece of energy that you have. And they go, man, she glows, she shines.
Right.
There are some people who are going to shine in algebra. There's some people who are going to shine in computer programming, and that's where their energy is. And you can get in there and understand that energy and share that energy. But instead of getting mad at somebody because they don't know how to dribble, is start celebrating that they want to try to share in that energy.
I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and we were talking about remove the one. Basically, outside of Phil being black, outside of their Democrat or Republican, what don't you like about them? If you remove that one or two things, why can't you still see the good in that individual? Right. That way, I'm not going in the conversation as, well, Kent's a racist white Republican. I don't even know that, but people will see those two things and they'll just conclude the conversation. Okay, outside of those two things, is there something that you don't like about that person? Well, I've never had a conversation. Well, maybe you should before you just make a judgment about that individual.
Right. Right. And that's how we start to move the dial. That's how it starts to shift. That's how it starts to change. um and you know and it's understanding. um so case in point. um you see these memes all the time. Ugh, kids today will never know what it was like to drink out of a hose, dial a rotary phone, and blah, 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 from your childhood in the 70s, right? So I just put out there, I'm like, be glad about that.
Right.
Instead of trying to impose guilt on your kids for not experiencing the same experiences that you have, stop it and start experiencing their experiences with them.
Right.
You want to change the world in 2023? You want a new you, a new me? Basically, what you do is stop living in the past and start living in the present. Learn, you know, you have to learn how to be here. If all I do is every time one of my kids says, "Oh, I've just experienced this," and if I don't celebrate that with them, if I don't celebrate that with them, then they think that perhaps it's wrong. Like, oh man, I thought Dad would have got happy about that.
Right. You're making them have a negative connotation with progression.
Yeah.
That's not safe. That's not good. You want them to progress. It's like, well, back in my day, it was the chalkboard. Okay, then there's a calculator. Now you can probably just ask Siri or whatever. Be excited for that. I can teach you 3 words. We're struggled. Toiling is not how life is designed.
Right.
Be glad there's progression. And to get into the group, align yourself with progression.
Here's what you need to do. If here's the conversations you need to have. You need to learn how to become a good storyteller without saying, well, back in my day, right? You can't do that because I'm going to tell you what, an 18-year-old kid doesn't give a shit about what happened in the 80s unless it's Stranger Things. Right? They don't. Okay. They care about what's happening in this second, right? So become a good storyteller. Tell stories about things, right? And but don't and I mean that's why Aesop's fables were so great, right? Because there was a story, it was a great story, but there was always a hidden agenda behind it or whatever, right? That's the fable. So the idea to me is if you want to change the world, or you want to change 2023 and start having different conversations, start celebrating the moment and get out of the past, right? And that's everybody. And that's, hey, there were some nasty, gross things. I'm not saying ignore history, ignore the past, but stop living in it.
Right.
Learn from it and enjoy the progression. And be present now. And to your point, don't ever listen. I don't want to hear it. When you're with me, I don't want to hear it. Right? That's being present. When you're not present, I let it go and go, well, I don't want to upset this guy or right.
But I was hearing someone talk about this, and it's like, okay, imagine I have my own house, and I live on your street. Matter of fact, I'm your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And I dump my trash on my front yard.
Yeah.
People might say, well, it's Phil's yard. He can do what he wants to. Okay, what happens when the wind picks up? Now it's on your lawn. Now it's on Scott's lawn. Now, they said it rolls downhill.
The rats start coming over.
Right. And then all of a sudden, it's everybody's problem.
Yep.
Why not just, hey, listen, and like you said, around me, I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to say that I'm going to have this conversation one time directly. We don't have to be bad. We can still be buddies.
Right.
Just know that's not okay. You're not going to say the C word. You're not going to say the N word. You're not going to say, we're not doing that.
Right.
I have friends on both sides, and that's not the energy that I want around me. I
just don't want it. Yep. Right. And that's what we have to do. That's the right way to do it. And if you listen, if you don't think you can do that, if you can't do that, Ted says, yeah. Yeah, reach out. Info at 216thenet.com. Ted says, to help with discrimination about my disability, I adopt the attitude of membership has its privileges. Being a particular race has its privileges and its downfall. Celebrate your privileges. Yeah, um, and understand and share your privileges.
Right.
And share your privileges.
Well, I'm excited for you talking about Elijah and even for Luke, kind of in and out stuff like that. Hey, but here, include.
Yeah.
Use the platform you're going to get with athletes to include, not to be better than, not to make poke fun of it, not to belittle. No. This is why the science kid's cool. This is why the band kid's cool. Include. Use your privilege. Use what you have. Use those resources to make things better for everyone else too.
And here's the other thing that I'm going to say as we close this show. 2023 is not the year of Michael Jordan, so stop it.
What do you mean?
I've seen many memes. Welcome to the year of Jordan because of 23.
There's 23 in the year. What? Okay, 2032. I don't want to hear anything about Magic.
24. I don't want to hear about Kobe. I love Kobe. God rest.
What do you mean? It's back-to-back greatness.
Hey,
greatness.
I don't.
The year of the mom.
Hey, so now you know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to do because LeBron wore 23 too. Every time I see that, I'm gonna be like, "It's the year of LeBron." Stop it.
Well, I'm gonna not because it's the year of Jordan, but I'm gonna fade away from that LeBron.
Hey, how are you? Listen, folks, we can't thank you enough for 3033 is the year of Pippen. That's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is the GOAT, but that's a whole different show and a whole different topic. Anyway, and Magic Johnson wore 33 at Michigan State.
If you want to change the way that you're looking at things, think of your higher self and think to yourself, sometimes I dream that he is me.
No.
Like Mike. If I could be like Mike, and
we're playing out. All right, everybody. Be good. See you next week, Phil. Hopefully, have a safe trip back. We'll see you in studio next week. It'll be fun. I'll give you a call here later on this weekend.
All right, brother.
All right.
Yes.